Good morning and welcome to episode 4 of Pugwatch. Today's episode takes place in Gundrak, using my mage Taylana again. Now I must admit, this is one run I've been waiting for a long time, a bad run that I could actually properly rip into. Most of the group are pretty good, they're polite, they don't say much, but I mean, at the end of the day we get the job done. But there's one major thing in here that I've seen a couple of times in instances and just never been fortunate enough to record it. But we'll get to that when we get there. Now the group consists of a tank, a death knight, a tree druid, a warrior tank, a death knight, a tree druid, and I believe it's a warlock. Yeah, there he is. And myself, obviously, arcane mage. Now a lot of the trash we'll start with pretty standard: shoot it, move on, shoot it, move on. Anyone who's done this instance will attest that it is pretty much kill 2 packs, take on the first boss. Now what I tend to do with this group of snakes here on the floor is to just blow them up with Arcane Explosion, purely because it makes it a little bit easier and they don't aggro then during the main fight. As you will notice in a second, I am quite low on mana. And before I've even had a chance to clear the snakes, the tank's ready to engage the boss. No checking is anybody ready, no stopping and waiting for mana. Now obviously the healers, being a druid, isn't going to run out of mana anytime soon. Warlock can tap. I had to evocate and then just open fire. And the other thing is the snakes here. No one else bothered with the snakes apart from me. I ended up using Blizzard followed by Arcane Explosion to just try and keep them occupied. Killed him. The Death Knight beat me to the casket to free the healer. Notice the tank ran straight past that as well. I mean, he's not paying any attention to the welfare of the rest of the group. He's just kind of strolling on in his own little world. I got myself a new pair of shoes anyway, so I'm going to equip those. But yeah, as I said, unfortunately this isn't the first time I've seen a bad tank like this, who just ignores everybody. I mean, I can understand maybe if the healer's got full mana, but the healer hasn't got full mana here. Yes, they are a druid, yes they have innovate, but that's like saying I require all warriors to use last stand and shield wall before I'll heal them. Just a little bit of common sense, just going, oh hang on, he's not got a lot of not got a lot of mana, I'll let him drink up. As I said, Warlock's the odd one out because, again, from playing a Warlock, you can just tap and most healers are happy to chuck a renew on you, especially if they're a Druid or a Priest. Shamans will do Riptide as well, actually. In fact, the only ones that get a bit arsey about that is Paladins, because they can't do a heal over time. Although I must admit, I just tend to say tap and heal them to full. Now this was another pull here. Straight up, straight in. Fair enough, chain pull it, not so much of a problem. He did. No one was out of mana, I must admit. I still had a lot of mana. I must admit, I do forget to fight conservatively while progressing through the instances. I tend to just spam Arcane Blast when really I should do Arcane Blast, Arcane Blast, Arcane Barrage, or if it's procced, Missile Barrage. And there we go, he goes over there. So I'm going to go sit and drink for a second because I've got no mana. And the tank seems to have no spatial awareness. I must admit, I can't see it because I'm not in the room yet. But 3, 2, 1, aggro. Now I could have ice blocked here, but I was worried about it running to the healer, so I kind of tried leading it towards the tank and forgot to put mana shield up and died. But no spatial awareness from the tank. Even a quick spin of his camera would have revealed the patrol was coming back that way. And of course, now they've got to deal with the extra addition of having a water elemental in the fight along with the boss. But yeah, as I said, absolutely no awareness from the tank on what's going on, whatever. I could have probably asked for a rebirth from the druid at this point, but I thought I'll save it just in case for emergency. It's not really worth asking for a rebirth as a DPS. Some trees do just give it to you anyway, they've glyph for it, so they just go bang, you're up. But this guy didn't, so I'm not going to pester him for it. Now this fight is actually quite hard if people stand in the purple ick. Especially if you've got DPS classes and you've got a warrior who doesn't move and just stands there and tanks it in a set of goop. It's a pain for everybody then. Now I had a little bit of look at this because it's slotted, but I still realised I couldn't make much of an improvement over what I had. And the tree res me anyway, so let's get back on with the show. Now while I'm drinking up, the Warlock's healing up. I must admit, most healers are pretty good. If you die and they res you, they will just chuck a heal on you while they wait for you to sort yourself out. I'll wait for this guy to move away. But then again, I have had some healers that res you and don't heal you, and just expect you to heal yourself, so I kind of eat regardless nowadays. I don't know whether that's the normal or not. As a healer, if I res someone, I quite happily just chuck a full heal on them, because it doesn't take much, especially if they're a cloth wearer, they don't have much health anyway. Now again, I'm guessing the warrior's pretty much going for a chain pull through this instance, but he hasn't really forewarned anyone. Most tanks I get, if they're going to chain pull, they'll go, oh, I'm going to chain pull. But also looking at his gear, he's not exactly geared to the standard I'd expect chain pulling to be sort of something he does naturally. And again, there was no quick ready check, there was nothing, I don't mean he might have looked at people's bars, but I was sat at half mana, the warlock sat at no mana. Pop mirror images and blow this guy down. And here comes the bit in a minute that made me rage. I actually was very close to just quitting the instance at this point. Loot drops, warrior checks the loot, not something he wants, leaves party. Doesn't even say, oh, I've got to go, no excuse, nothing. He just buggers off out. I wasn't best impressed at the time. Because to me, if you join a random dungeon, you're in it for the whole dungeon. If you come to a dungeon and they go, oh, actually, I want this, I'll take this loot, and then leave, you've just used the rest of the group. That's something that infuriates me. If you're coming to a dungeon, everybody works together as a team. It's not, oh, I'm going to use this group of people to get some loot. Now, I thought this was I thought it was an insane idea, actually. This Death Knight is doing a fair whack of DPS, so she's obviously a DPS knight. I checked her gear, she's got no tank gear, and the healer just goes, you tank it, I'll heal you. So, someone who's going to be taking critical beatings to the face. Now this guy here I tried to sheep, but the warlock's imp was already on him, so I just had to in the end blast him down. But yeah, so our tank is now non-death capped. And it's pretty much relying on a tree druid with insane heals to keep her up. If you watch her health, it jumps to about half most times. I must be absolute kudos to the Death Knight and the tree who managed to pull that off without much of a problem. But still, in my book, it should never have happened. The tank should never have just left just because he didn't get any loot. We also didn't get to do the extra boss because without a tank that would have been a hell of a lot harder. So pretty much best we get is a Death Knight and Frost Presence, which again, I get to finish my instance, so I'm happy with that. If I'd have to queue for another tank after queuing for ages to get a tank in the first place for this instance, it was about a 10-15 minute queue, I think it was. I've had worse, but I mean, a lot of the time when you've queued for that long, usually you can get a group that actually goes through it, whereas to do a 10-15 minute queue and then have a tank that leaves just because I didn't get some loot, seriously, it's like a child having a temper tantrum. That's another thing that I don't like, is the way that tanks seem to think they're the be-all and end-all. Yes, they are the most in-demand class at the moment, because not everybody can play a tank. But seriously, just have a bit of blooming decency. You aren't the be-all and end-all, and your arrogance, especially some tanks, that arrogance is phenomenal. I mean, I know as a tank I can be a little bit arrogant, especially if you get like DPS who just think that you're going to pull stuff off them when they go berserk. I mean, a lot of people use the mantra, if the healer dies, it's the tank's fault. If the tank dies, it's the healer's fault. If the DPS die, it's their own bloody fault. And to me, that suits me perfectly. Yeah, when I'm tanking, if you manage to pull aggro, that is your own fault. But to just go, oh, I didn't get the loot I wanted and leave, not acceptable. And it would have failed this group if I'd had to leave it and just gone, nah, you know what, I can't be bothered. But because of the fact that the tree and the Death Knight managed to pull it back, I've kind of changed my mind. I mean, look at that. That's an uncapped Death Knight taking on a boss in a heroic and still surviving. I don't know if she took any of the tanking gear. She blooming deserved it, but maybe she doesn't like tanking. At the end of the day, we got through. I did thank them both for their healing, but by the time I typed it, they both left. So I guess they were they were as annoyed as I was that the tank had left. So anyway, to summarise, it was a good run to start with. Tank was a bit impatient. In fact, he was just generally not looking at everybody else, and then he left when he got what he wanted. So to me, that's he didn't get what he wanted, I should say. to me that's just not acceptable. And I was originally going to score this group. I was thinking either 1 or 2 out of 10 purely for that, but because of the fact that the Tree Druid and the Death Knight managed to work together and solve the instance, I think they managed to claw back at least a 5. Purely because of the fact the inconvenience of hanging a tank levers, they're not going to score anything higher than that, but they saved this group, and so in my book that's 5 out of 10, no argument. My main summary of comments, as I said before, is that Tank was just arrogant, didn't help anybody else out, didn't really work as a group. He just kind of went, oh, I'm going to kill this, you're all going to kill it with me so that we get it done quicker, kind of thing. He wasn't very spatially aware, he didn't notice any pulls coming in from the side, and just generally really crap tank. And I mean, I'm willing to give people a fair share, because a lot of people are quite patient. Like when I was on Meat Shield, I was a crap tank, fair enough. But seriously, there's a difference between being a crap tank and being just an arrogant, I'm not going to swear, but just being extremely arrogant when it comes to running an instance, thinking you're the be-all and end-all. So yeah, 5 out of 10 for that group, and hopefully I won't have any more like that. Anyway, this has been Pugwatch, and I'm Metroid2K.